Hello viewers, you welcome to this tutorial. So we're dealing with functions. Alright, so what is a function? What is a function? We're done with for loop, while loop, and every other thing we need to do. So today we're basically dealing with functions. Now a function is basically, or functions, or a function is basically a group of code with a single name, okay, which when the name is called, every other thing within the code is made available. Just like a variable, we declare a variable like user value, which anytime we call the variable's name, the value within the variable is made available. So the same thing applies to the function, but functions are able to store more than one stuff we want to do. Okay, variable just stores a name, list stores a group of values, but function stores a groups of code. Okay, anything. We can put a print function in a function, we can put print function in a function. Yeah, you can end up putting a list in a function, a variable in a function. So a function is actually just a name we have, okay, and within the name there are groups of code, and the groups of code we don't want to be repeating them within our code. You get a concept? So we don't want to have, just like you have 50 lines of code, and that 50 lines of code will be repeated, like facial recognition, okay, which facial recognition is more than 50 lines of code, okay, and you like to be repeating them within your code. So you wouldn't like to waste your time to do copy. Even if you are doing copy and paste for the 50 codes, it will increase the size of your application, okay. And one, and two, if there is a mistake you want to correct, so you have to go back to all this 5 times you repeated these 50 lines of code to make corrections within them. But you can just make it simple, declare a function, put all these codes in, and then call the function. So anywhere you have the function, if you make an editing within the function code itself, it affects every other place. So you don't need to go within the 5 times of the 50 lines to be making that correction. So functions are necessary. They are just blocks of code which we just do not want to execute unless maybe something happens. It's different from the if statement, okay. So groups of code, we give them a name, and anytime we need them, we just call up onto them. So what is actually the details we need to have about a function? Now every function has a name, okay. Variables has a name, list has a name, obviously functions have a name. So we have to give our functions a name, unlike the if statement, okay, and the for loops and the while loops, they don't have names, okay, but function has a name like a variable, okay. And also because it's the name which we use to call the function, so we have to give the function a name. All right, and sometimes contains arguments within parentheses. I'm sure this parenthesis is being spelled right, but it doesn't matter, like the code. Okay, so what function actually does it sometimes contains arguments within parentheses. Now parentheses is basically this, I think I always call it open and close bracket. That's this thing. All right, so it is just called a parenthesis, okay. So everywhere you see it, if you see it around the if statement, if you see it at anywhere of the code, it's just called parenthesis. All right, so I normally call it an open and a close bracket, but it's just called parenthesis. So it's not a strange name. You've seen it in your print statement, you've seen it in your declaring of a list where you have this parenthesis, okay. All right, so let's just jump into what we have. So function sometimes contains arguments within parentheses. Now arguments are additional information you need in order to execute your code you have within your function. So it's like you're doing a facial recognition, okay. So the facial recognition is the code within the function, and the argument, no, this is just a kind of weird example, but the argument could be the face of the person because the face of the person is not in the function. It's not in artificial intelligence or the neural network, okay, which is in facial recognition. So you need the face of the person as an argument, then you put the face of the person inside your function, which the facial recognition will identify, okay. So argument is basically an additional information you need, something else you need in order to have an effect or a good effect on your code to make your function so advanced. All right, so we'll go into it when we get there. All right, so the next one is code to execute. I said earlier every function consists of a code, okay. Functions are not empty. Even variables have values, lists have values. The same thing, functions has code to execute, function has a name. So anytime you call the name, you call the code to execute as well. Okay, now on this last thing you have to know about function, which is declaring a function and calling the function. All right, so these are the two things you need to know. Just like the variable, where I go and give a variable like user value, okay, it's equal to true, user value is equal to maybe print. All right, All right, so this is when I've kind of declared a value, okay, and where I call the value, maybe I want to use it, so I print user value. All right, so the same thing applies to the function. So function can be declared and function can be called. So you first have to declare the function, give the function a name, put in the code you need to execute. If there are any arguments, put in. If there are no arguments, then you just leave it as such. So okay, so the arguments within the parameters, meaning the arguments are placed within the bracket. Okay, all right, then after, what you have to do is you declare the function. After declaring the function, which all this then constitutes the declaring of the function, then you later do one thing by calling the function. And calling the function simply means you are writing the name of the function. So anywhere Python sees the name of the function, it brings everything the function can do, then it executes them. So this is the little thing you need to know about functions, and it's very short, but it's powerful. So after knowing this, you are good to jump in the practical aspect of what the function does. Okay, so you are ready for the next tutorial. Just watch over it and subscribe to the channel if you have not. If the video is good for you, just like it and leave your comment below. Thank you.